why you think this is shaping up to be the next great bull run for uranium. How much of that will evolve around the EVs narrative?
I think that it's adding to the overall story for sure. The trend is clear with EVs, and anybody who knows anything about electrical grids and the need for a vastly expanded electrical grid to support the huge uptick in electric vehicles and electrification of essentially everything understands that baseload energy is important. And the great thing about nuclear energy is that it's a consistent, reliable baseload energy that's also carbon emission free. And that is gaining traction amongst the ESG investment community, for lack of a better word, with the environmental left, with the entire green agenda. We're even seeing, the political left accepting nuclear energy as a green energy source, which is a huge development. And so, to the extent that electric vehicles will continue on this trend, it only makes sense that nuclear is a major part of that mix to provide the energy for that.
So tell us what the supply looks like right now. Are we in a massive crunch? And given the fact that we're headed towards a post-pandemic world, we're seeing the cold snap affecting most of the United States, and the need for uranium increasing. And as you said, this EV revolution that will need uranium. So what does the supply situation look like right now?
I think the best way to describe it would be fragile. The supply situation it's not quite yet at that point where it's an extreme crunch right now, but it's just around the corner, and in my opinion, it's unavoidable. So right now, all of the uranium in the world that's being produced is essentially coming from Kazakhstan and Australia, and a bit from Uzbekistan, maybe a little bit from Russia, but there's basically nothing coming out of the States. There's currently nothing coming out of Canada, which has historically been a huge uranium production jurisdiction. Both McArthur River and Cigar Lake, Cameco's two biggest mines, the two biggest mines in the world, are both closed at the moment. So we have supply coming from only a few sources, which makes it very fragile, and demand that's just consistent and rising.
So Justin, right now the spot price of uranium trading around $27.50 a pound. We were talking offline. You mentioned the all-time high was at 134 back in 2007. So we're a long way away from the all-time high here.
Yeah, a very long ways away. The spot market is one of those things where historically that's what the market follows. That's what the investment market follows, is the spot price. It's the most visible metric that we can all see that's put out there publicly for free. So it's what we're all watching, but it's really, at this point, it's not all that important. And the reason is that the trades that are moving that price currently are on such small volume, and it's going essentially back and forth between uranium traders. The price isn't where it's at now based on significant volume purchases by end users, most specifically utilities. Utilities are basically out of the market still. They're drawing down inventories. They're buying further up the uranium cycle. They're buying UF6. They're buying enriched uranium, and kind of avoiding that U3O8 market, partially because they know how thin it is, and they still have contracts coming in that are partially referenced to the spot price. So to the extent that utilities come into the spot market and move it up, that actually affects their contract book on their deliverables. So the spot market it is important because it's what we're all watching. But if you're watching the sector over the past 90 days, it's essentially irrelevant. I mean, even today, we're seeing the spot price come down 25, 35 cents, and the equities again are rallying. We've seen huge amounts of money come into the space in the past 90 days, completely ignoring the spot market. So that's been a unique development over the past few months.
We saw what the Trump administration was doing for uranium, how they were, looking at restarting projects here in the U.S. How will that change with the Biden administration?
Well, I think that certain mining jurisdictions will probably be less supported. So there's maybe jurisdictions within the U.S. for production purposes that are kind of right on the edge of being supported that might not be supported. But I think that overall, it seems like the Biden administration is being supportive of nuclear energy. So that should bode well for reactors that are on the chopping block. But overall, we're seeing support come from the Biden administration, and that's a total sea change for the political left, and it's great to see. Yeah.
So as we mentioned, there's a current melt up in the uranium price, but where could you see prices headed within the next 6 months here?
Well, I think that the uranium price actually has been trickling down slightly, the spot price, but we're seeing the price for UF6 and for conversions at an all-time high price right now, right around $22. And SWU, which is separative work unit, it's the cost of enrichment. That is also, it's been in almost a 2.5-year uptrend, and that it's just up another $2 this month, which means that there's increasing demand for enriched uranium. It's a positive sign overall. But I think that we're going to see some spot market action soon here. And one of the big reasons is that the producers need to do some buying, which is crazy. So Cameco, Cigar Lake is still offline. So Cameco actually needs to come in and buy around 13 to 15 million pounds from the spot market this year. And we believe Kazatomprom is going to buy from the spot market as well.
So how far out do you think we are from reaching all-time highs again?
I don't know that we necessarily will, but I don't know that it matters. I personally believe that we're going to see the uranium equities market breach the previous market's total valuation, which was about 150 billion. Right now, we're just under 20 billion total valuation for the equities market. I think we'll breach that 150 billion total market cap for the sector by the time we hit $55 a pound uranium. And I honestly think that we'll probably go to the cost of production, essentially, which is, let's say, $55 to $65 a pound is what's absolutely necessary to reach a marginally balanced market. And then we'll probably overshoot from there. I think if we went north of $100 a pound, it would surprise me. But at the same time, the previous market, when it went up to that $134 a pound, that wasn't really utilities piling in. That was very low volumes. That was hedge funds and traders. And so they could absolutely do the same in this market. When will we reach that peak uranium price? I kind of see this as maybe like a 2 to 4 year market. Okay. Maybe 2023, 2024 is my guess for a speculative peak as far as the equities go, and potentially the spot price as well. Well, it's a very complex sector to understand, especially when the vast majority of the companies in the space are producing nothing and very likely will ever produce anything at all. So it's difficult to judge valuations and make investments based on that. The safer investments are obviously the mid and large caps and the ETFs. So you have the Denisons, the Next Gens, Cameco, Kazatomprom. URA is the biggest ETF, although it's only 70% allocated to uranium. We'd like to see them go back to 100%, which would also be a big signal for the sector, and then more buying, obviously, of their underlying holdings. There's another ETF, URNM, the North Shore Uranium Investment. That's 100% pure play. That's a great ETF. Besides that, our newsletter, we're primarily invested in developers. So the explorers, obviously, that have yet to make a discovery can see greater upside if they make a discovery, but they're a bit more risky. We like to look at the companies that have solid management, that acts towards shareholders in a respectful manner, has done something positive for shareholders in the past, and they have projects that are in jurisdictions that are supportive of uranium mining. And we also look at share structure. Yeah.